I'm going to introduce up here someone who needs no introduction. She is epic, to say the least. One of my favorite role models. The definition of unapologetic. I'm going to invite her up here, Sister Linda Sarsour. Let her tell you what's up.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. How you doing? Fired up? Yeah. So I'm not going to take too much of your time. I just wanted to say I'm so deeply honored and humbled to be here with all of you. I'm not going to lie to you. It's been a really rough, for me, like a couple of years, but also just a rough couple of weeks. I've been traveling the country, and as you know, we have a really important election this year, and you know, we got some things we need to do and get together and get straight. And just being in this room with all of you has filled me with a lot of joy and a lot of hope. And the sisterhood that we have in our community is really important because we're all we got. We're all we got. When we look around you, this is all we have in the Muslim American community. This is all we have in our country. We have to have each other's back. So I'm so proud that you have a wonderful organization like RISE that brings you together, that allows you to build relationships, that adds some joy, adds some inspiration, gave us an entire... I learned so much today from Dr. Jamila Kareem. It was absolutely stunning. You know, our sister came up here with her deep spoken word, like she spoke to like the inside of my heart. And so I want to say how grateful, and Allah chooses for people to be in certain spaces. And today Allah chose for me to be here with all of you. Many of you know that I wrote a book. And I'm not a lady that has a lot of time to write books, to be honest with you. But I also had a reflection that I don't know how long I have to be here. And Allah decides how long I have to be here. And I wanted to make sure that I left behind a story. A story that was defined by me. A story that I wrote to define not only myself, but my family story, the story of our community. And what I will promise you is that when you read my book, you will see yourself in this book. And I wrote it in a way where you will remember many moments that I'm sharing and remember where you were, what you were doing, who you were with. And our community has a very, very rich story. And so I'm just going to read a very short passage from my book in hopes that it inspires you and it starts to get you to think about what are you leaving behind? What is your legacy that you are leaving behind to your children and grandchildren? My children have been through a lot, and the least that I could do for them is that for my grandchildren and my great-great-grandchildren, they could pick up this book and say, this was my grandmother. And my grandmother was never a bystander. And that is what I want to be remembered as in the Muslim American community, and it's also how I want to meet my Lord. I want my Lord to know that I never sat back when I saw injustice, when I saw oppression, when I saw people hurt and broken and marginalized, that I used everything that I had to stand up for what is right, regardless of the consequences. This is in my first introduction of my book, and this is what I write. Why am I telling you this story? Because it helps to explain why I decided to write this book. More than a memoir of my 3+ decades on this earth, my narrative is a social justice manifesto, a rallying cry for every one of us to step forward and serve our country, embracing its rich diversity with open arms, insisting that our leaders respect the rights of all its citizens while behaving morally in the world. In this book and in my life, I strive to follow the guidance that the beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, laid out for us, to speak up for my people and for all people, to confront injustice in all its forms, and to challenge the dangerous misperceptions about who we are. In following this path, I refuse to be intimidated. I will not allow myself to be controlled by other people's fear of what they don't understand. For the sake of my own mental health, I try not to engage with all the hate and venom that comes at me, but sometimes I simply have to jump in to affirm that I am not ashamed or afraid to be who I am. Unapologetically Muslim American, unapologetically Palestinian American, and unapologetically from Brooklyn, New York. There are people who hate what I represent. I shatter every stereotype they have of Muslim women, whom they seem to believe should be submissive and subservient, unseen and unheard. And I am seen everywhere, and I make my voice a megaphone, speaking up for my people to those who would vilify and dehumanize us. I will not sit by and allow my people, your people, anyone's people, to be vilified and dehumanized, because when hate goes uncontested for too long, atrocities happen, as the history of this very country has shown. And so I will keep organizing, building power and speaking out against injustice, because that is my right and my charge. And because in the face of hate, it is the ultimate expression of love. Now more than ever, we must resist the temptation to hide our light, bide our time, to make ourselves appear less formidable than we are. If you ever ask yourself, should I not share the position I hold on this lightning rod issue? Should I shrink myself in certain rooms where my voice is not welcome? Should I appear less Palestinian, less Latina, less Black today? Always the answer is no. We must never negotiate away or compromise our principles and values. Instead, we must bring all our complex identities to the table, transforming those spaces in which any part of who we are is not welcome, because our country's future and the world our children will inherit depends on our courage and commitment now. I want everyone who reads this book to walk away understanding that the path to change lies in building coalitions across marginalized communities, not just among Muslims, but also women, immigrants and the undocumented, Black Lives Matter advocates, supporters of LGBTQ rights, people with disabilities, the elderly, poor people, everyone struggling for equal treatment under the law. We must recognize that unity is not uniformity. Rather, it is the key to our very survival. If we are able to bring all oppressed communities inside one tent and bring all of our allies with us into that tent, our collective will vastly outnumber the opposition. Once we grasp that we are not actually outnumbered, we will no longer be out-organized by those who seek to divide us by provoking tribal animosities. Instead, we will join together to become this nation's unshakable moral compass. Let us therefore stand shoulder to shoulder and keep our voices loud, remembering always that fear is a choice, and so is freedom. We are the majority, and we must be the conscience of this country, its true north, knowing that when we resist injustice against any of us, we advance the cause of justice for all of us. Look around you, my sisters. We are each other's greatest hope, the beating heart of a nation. We are what democracy looks like. My book is called We Are Not Here to Be Bystanders, and I just want to make a few clarifications and have you think about this in a bigger way. I already got paid to write this book. So I don't get money off of the book that you buy today. But what this does is when publishers and mainstream publishers like my publisher, Simon & Schuster, see that they can publish the voice of a Palestinian American woman, a supporter of the boycott, divestment, sanctions movement, a woman who's a vehement critic of the state of Israel, a woman who's a social justice activist, a woman who speaks truth to power no matter the consequences, and my book does well, then the publisher says, wait a minute, that means that more people want to read stories of Muslim American women, Palestinian women, Black Muslim women, Somali women, and it opens doors for more women to come. So I want you to see this as an invitation of an investment in the next woman of color in our community who gets an opportunity to publish a book at the highest levels in these United States of America. So I want you, Eid's coming up too. This is a great Eid gift to a young woman in your life. And I promise you, sisters, there's also an audiobook version of it. I would love for you to buy my book, but you can also listen to it on audio, and it's my Brooklyn accent in your ear. And it is a gift to all of you. And I've had many women who've already started reading it and sending me messages around the country. And the point of the book is not to make you cry, but you will cry. Because it reminds us that we are not victims in this country. We are survivors of racial and religious intolerance. We are a community of great dignity and integrity, and we have given everything to this country, and it is time for this country to love us back the way we have loved this country. And so this book is my gift to all of you. I want to thank all of you who have come here today, and I'm happy to sign your book. I'm happy to answer questions outside, and I hope that you are all safe. May Allah bless all of you in this room. May Allah protect you, protect your families, your loved ones, your children. May Allah protect us as a Muslim community, and may He make us victorious in all of our endeavors, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.